All right, we have people coming in from all around the country. Good afternoon or good evening, wherever you are. We're here in Massachusetts, and I want to welcome everyone from around the country. If you don't mind, if you want to chime in and chat and tell us where you're sitting right now, where you're joining us from, that would be great to see where people are joining us from. So welcome to everyone from around the country. My name is Kara Cohen. I am on the AARP Massachusetts staff, and this is our first webinar in the series that we're doing for caregivers. And it's every Thursday in May, 7 p.m. Eastern time. And we'll be doing four more webinars actually. On the next slide, you'll see the variety and where we can encourage you to consider registering for any of the ones that are coming up, including, I put on the slide, key questions to consider about initial Medicare enrollment, because that might be something that you're doing as a caregiver for the loved one in your life. And then it runs the gamut. You'll see that there's also one on fraud. We have a fraud webinar every month that we offer as well. So I encourage you to sign up at aarp.org/MA events. And then you can also go find what's going on locally for you. So as you know, AARP keeps a really deep focus on health and financial security and personal fulfillment for people that are 50 and over and for their families. And you'll find that reflected in our offerings and resources and, of course, in our advocacy. And right now, in every state and all the way to the United States Capitol, we're advocating for issues that affect you most. We're fighting to protect your hard-earned Medicare and Social Security benefits. And we're urging Congress to continue to lower prescription drug prices, support family caregivers, and to stop scams and shut down fraud. And AARP, we think we're making a difference. We're taking on big pharma and we're winning. And Medicare is now able to negotiate for lower prices on some prescription drugs, and insulin copays are capped at $35 a month. We're also fighting any proposed cuts to Social Security. We're being vigilant about that. You know, we've worked hard, and people who are retired worked hard to save for retirement. It's your money, and you deserve to keep every cent of it, right? So we'll keep fighting to protect your interests here in Massachusetts and across the country. And AARP is passionate about Social Security. We're passionate about supporting caregivers, which is why we have this series. It's an issue. Caregiving is an issue that does not get nearly enough recognition. And there are 48 million family caregivers in the US. And we think caregivers are the backbone of our long-term care system. They help their family and friends stay in their homes as they age, rather than being forced into costly nursing homes. And despite their importance, caregivers face many challenges, and some of you know this from your own experience. There's emotional stress, there's physical strain, there's financial loss. And so we're working to help caregivers recoup some of the money that they spend. We know that on average, caregivers spend around $7,000 a year out of their own pockets to help care for a loved one. And some have to leave the workforce or reduce hours at work to make time for caregiving responsibilities. And that's why all of these reasons why we're focusing on this during this election season and pretty much every election season. And we're wanting to make sure that candidates focus on these issues. We want to make sure that your local elected leaders and your federal elected leaders are aware of our focus on caregivers and Social Security. You are our country's biggest voting bloc. That's no news to you, but we want to remind elected leaders. And so what you have in front of you is the opportunity to sign up to get emails from us about our calls to action and our updates. If you happen to have a phone handy, you can hover it over the QR code. And if not, this slide deck will be going out to you afterwards, and you can grab the URL there and sign up to get emails from us. And you'll join a growing list of AARP members across the country and non-members who are wanting to stay informed and wanting to make sure candidates and elected leaders keep in mind are the two key issues of Social Security and supporting caregivers. So with that, I just want to remind you to, number one, bookmark or keep handy your local AARP webpage, aarp.org/MA for Massachusetts. And so for your local webpage, you can change it to your state abbreviation or just go to aarp.org/local. And you'll find a whole lot going on that you may not know about that your state office and colleagues of mine across the country are working on. So for today, you've been on a webinar before, I'm guessing, but just a reminder, you want to go to the bottom to enter any questions that you have. During the presentation, we'll get to a portion where you can ask questions. Chat is open, obviously, so that you can all share with each other and also respond to questions during the presentation that are put out to you. And so now let's get to meet Sam Doknovich, who is a member of our Volunteer Speakers Bureau at AARP Massachusetts, and many of your states have speakers bureaus as well. So after you're inspired by Sam and his presentation, you can consider becoming a volunteer with the Speakers Bureau in your state. Reach out to your state office. Sam retired in October 2019 after a career with IBM and Siemens Building Technologies in the services and security fields. And not too long after that, he ended up joining our Speakers Bureau in 2022. But I want to say about Sam that one of the aspects of his professional life that he found most fulfilling was the development of training programs and materials used in the branches across the U.S. So that lends itself nicely to the volunteer work that he does with us. He also is on his Council on Aging board in Hopkinton, Massachusetts, and he parlayed this interest into training and personal development to oversee the local implementation of the National Age-Friendly and Dementia-Friendly Community Initiative. All of you across the country can look into the AARP Age-Friendly Network and find out more about how to get involved in your community and support age-friendly initiatives that your community itself might be involved in, or your state might have already declared that they're an age-friendly state like Massachusetts has. And so Sam clearly is speaking from experience when he talks tonight about brain health and keeping his brain active, because it was so immediately after his retirement that he went on to do some significant volunteer work. We're lucky to have him as he joined our ranks, and he's also a huge advocate of age and dementia-friendly work across the state. He became certified as a Dementia Friends champion as well, which is something that you can look into learning more about supporting dementia-friendly work across the country. So all of this is close to Sam's heart, and yet he also stays active with other things, including being a grandparent and a major hiker. We have, how many mountains can you hike across New Hampshire that are 4,000 feet? How many 48, right. 48 peaks. And how many have you done, Sam?
I just did 36 on my 36th on Friday.
Amazing. I have yet to get started with that myself, but it is one of my goals as well. So let's get started with today's webinar. I'm excited. I think everybody else is, and enjoy. And we'll be going right up until the end of the hour with Sam. Thank you, Sam.
Well, great, Kara. Thank you for such a nice introduction. And I'll just, before we get into the actual topic, being a part of the Speakers Bureau is really fun. It's fun to do webinars for people all over the country. I have the list of people coming in from Texas and Las Vegas and all over the place. That's really heartwarming, but it's even more fun to do them in person. So if you like doing this type of volunteer work, please get in touch with your local AARP organization and get engaged. At AARP, I've been involved since 22, and it's just really a wonderful organization to volunteer for. So let's get into our presentation. As you probably imagine, before we start the content, I have to give you the mandatory disclaimer that what we're going to cover today is informational, educational. We're not giving you medical advice or diagnosing any problems or treating anything. Obviously, you always need to seek the advice of a physician or qualified healthcare provider before you do anything, before you engage in a change in your diet or an exercise program, because they are the experts. and AARP is not responsible for the consequences of any decisions or actions taken in reliance part of what we say today. Well, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a medical expert. I don't even play one on TV or play one on Zoom. So I can't provide specific recommendations, but AARP has spent a lot of time and energy putting this presentation together and really providing a lot of great information that you can noodle through and think how you can use it to positively impact your life. But first, let's start with some good news. We always seem to hear about all the bad news, but some of the good news is that, contrary to what you might believe, while genetics is really important and what you were born with is really important. And I know when you go to see your doctor, if you have high cholesterol or high blood pressure, probably your parents did. But until recently, the prevailing wisdom was that your brain, when you were born, had all the brain cells that you were going to ever have. And that the brain you had at birth was the brain you're going to keep and the brain you're going to have for your whole life. The good news is that we are so much more in control of our brain health. Only about 30% of physical aging can be traced to our genes. The rest is up to us. So this is really good news. We really can take control. But just like Spider-Man always said, with great power comes great responsibility. So hopefully you'll get some good information from today's presentation that'll allow you to take control of your brain health, and which also correlates real closely to the health of your body. Physical health and brain health are kind of go hand in hand. Now, we do have some handouts, which will also be available, sent out to you along with the slides, as Kara said. So what are we going to talk about? The agenda. We have 6 pillars of brain health. First one is to being social. We know how important it is to stay engaged with your friends and your family. Number 2 is engaging your brain. You always need to be learning and experiencing some new things to help that brain build new brain cells. Stress management is really critical. It addresses not just, it impacts not just your physical state, but your mental state, and it's important to understand both. Exercise, we know how important it is to keep that body engine running and be active in a way that supports your lifestyle and physical condition. Restorative sleep, pillar number 5. We all know how much better we feel after a night of good sleep, so we're going to get into some good tips. And for each of these pillars of brain health, you're going to be able to share some of your tips. So we're going to learn from the audience just as much as I think we're going to learn from the slides. And the last pillar, eating right. You know, we know how important it is to eat right, and we need to fuel the body, but it's also important to keep our brain properly fueled. So why is brain health so important now when we may not have thought about it years ago? Well, think what has changed so much. People are living longer, and so the risk for cognitive decline increases. I also do a Social Security presentation. When Social Security first came out in 1935, the average life expectancy for a man was about 56 years and 58 years for a woman. Now in 23, the life expectancy for a man has increased to more than 25 years, to 81 years, and for a woman more than 22 years to 85 years. So we want to be in good health to enjoy these extra years that we're adding to our life. Many of us are also rethinking retirement. We're not taking that golden handshake at 65 with the watch and then retiring to our house and read books and watch TV and maybe take care of the grandchildren. We're doing things in retirement. We may want to start a new career, or like I did. I was always a hiker, but unfortunately I worked too much and had a family, so I didn't hike all that much when I was working. But now that I'm retired, I'm hiking much more often, and I want to make sure not just my brain is in good health, but my body's in good health. We also know, since we're living longer, that it's going to cost more to keep ourselves healthy. So since healthcare costs are skyrocketing, this gives us an additional incentive to be as healthy as we can for as long as we can. And as I mentioned before, current brain research shows that we can grow new brain cells throughout our life, and how a brain healthy lifestyle can optimize our chance of maintaining good cognitive health as we age. So the first pillar, being social. And we knew how hard it is. We knew how hard it was to be social during the pandemic, right? I mean, everyone was locked in their house and you couldn't go visit friends. And yeah, you could see them on Zoom or you can call them. But it was really tough to be social during the pandemic. Studies have shown that people who have good social networks live longer and are just not just mentally healthier, but also are physically more healthy than people who are socially isolated. Connecting with other people is very stimulating and challenging. It can add meaning and purpose to our lives. And that's why social connectedness is a key predictor of health and independence in later years. In 2020, the National Academy of Science and Engineering conducted a survey, and they found there are health risks associated with loneliness. A quite serious one is that social isolation was associated with a 50% increase risk of dementia. Why? Because when you're socially isolated, you're not exercising your brain, you're not learning new things, you're not experiencing new things, and all of that means you're not growing new brain cells. So it's really important for us to stay engaged, to keep that brain healthy. We knew that it was really challenging to stay socially engaged during the pandemic. And hopefully, as we've come out of the pandemic and resume some of our normal habits, we remember to really stay socially engaged with friends and family. Before we get into some of the tips that AARP has for how you can stay socially engaged, I'd like to have you put in the chat, what are you doing to stay socially engaged? So let's see, Kara, what we have people typing into the chat.
They're still thinking.
So what are you doing? What are some of the tips that you found that really work to help you stay socially engaged?
Nice, here we go. Meet with friends for coffee, meals, go to the YMCA for group fitness. I play duplicate bridge online and in person, golfing, birding, volunteering, senior center events, and the list is going on and on. Everybody can see there's a great array of activities. Excellent.
Well, and I think as you see these activities flash through your screen, you can kind of compare them to what you're currently doing and see if there's anything new that you might want to get engaged with. So when I retired, I retired in 2019, as Kara said. I wasn't really involved in many of the social activities around Hopkinton, where I live. And people always ask, where is Hopkinton in Massachusetts? And I tell them it's 26 miles, 285 yards from Boston. I get a blank stare from them, and then I remind them, what's 26 miles, 285 yards long? It's the marathon. So I joined a club. I started playing pickleball regularly. Pickleball is a great sport. You can learn it pretty quickly. It's great exercise. You also meet lots and lots of new people. So I think joining a club or participating in a new sport is great as long as you do it, with some doctor's recommendations, and long as you remember that if you're going to be participating in a new sport, you start slow and build up your strength and make sure you stretch and warm up. Now, I know how important that is because so many people who are starting to play pickleball get injured because they're not warming up appropriately. You can attend community events. So I retired and I hadn't been to the senior center. So I said, well, let me check out what's happening at the senior center in my town. And I found out that the senior center is not just for seniors, in quotes. It's not for people who are in walkers or wheelchairs and on oxygen. It's really a very vibrant organization. I participate in a TED Talk that happens in person now. It used to happen online, which was really cool. We watch a video and then we discuss it. I also found that our local library has a ton of programs. They bring in authors for book talks. They have programs that you can join and seminars. Some of them are also a hybrid program where if you're not that local, you can participate on Zoom. I joined a book club at the senior center, which is really fun. Maybe you should consider adopting a pet or pet sitting. Now, we've kind of gone through the pet stage in my house, so we didn't adopt a pet, but my wife's boss who she works in a school, in an after-school program, has a really nice English Springer Spaniel. And whenever her boss is out of town, well, we take the dog, and when the boss goes on vacation, instead of kenneling, and we take the dog for a week, and it gives us a chance to get out and dog walk. And boy, you certainly meet everybody in your neighborhood who's a dog person when you're out there dog walking. And you definitely can volunteer with a local nonprofit such as I did. Besides, as Kara said, besides being a part of the Speakers Bureau, I'm also on the Hopkinton Council on Aging Board. So on this page, and Kara said, you're going to get the slides, so you don't have to write down all the information, but there's a virtual volunteering opportunity at you can see aarp.org/virtual volunteering. The Virtual Community Center has a lot of opportunities and information on it. And one of the ones I really like the most is Friendly Voice. You know, if you know someone that you love is feeling isolated or anxious in these challenging times, sometimes hearing a friendly voice on the phone can help. Maybe they're homebound and you can only get there one day a week. But this program is really great because AARP will call that person and have a conversation with them. And you're going to get the handout, so you'll have these links for future reference. So being socially connected is really important. Second pillar is engaging your brain. So let's discuss the importance of discovering and learning new things. Studies have shown the positive effects of challenging our brain in new ways. Our brain is stimulated and makes new connections when we learn new things or pursue new interests. When I first got started in the Age and Dementia Friendly initiative in our town, I read about a brain study of nuns that shows how important it is to learn new things. These particular nuns ran a facility for those needing care, from assisted living through memory care. It had independent living. It had a nursing home component. But these nuns only kept their job for 5 years. Every 5 years, they changed to a new job. And what was noticed by some of their healthcare providers is how little cognitive decline and how few nuns had any of the symptoms of dementia. So the nuns agreed to be part of this survey, part of this study. And when the nuns passed, they did their brain dissections, which sounds grisly, but it's the only way you can really understand what's happening in the brain. And they found all these new synaptic connections that were done, which were really amazing. So the brain really adapted. So you got to challenge your brain in new ways, pursue new interests, stay curious, challenge your thinking. Don't just do the same things you're doing over and over again. So before we get to the AARP tips for how to keep your brain engaged, let's get you to share some of the things that you do to learn new things, to challenge your brain, and to keep your brain engaged. So, Kara, we got a whole stream coming on board.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who, in the prior question, shared examples of how they're keeping their brain active and learning, going to classes, learning a second language, online piano lessons, learning crochet. Yeah, there's a lot of lifelong learning programs across the country where you can take courses as well. Puzzles, and somebody touts the AARP Virtual Community Center. Still working from home, fun job. How about that?
Well, it's always nice to earn a little bit of income. Still working Wordle. Yeah, my wife does Wordle. I like connections too. I do that every day. Games on AARP. Well, there's just a ton of things that you can do to keep your brain engaged and learn new things. So let's see what hasn't been covered. Take or teach a class. That's you might have expertise that you didn't even know you have. Maybe you're a photographer. I started doing photography again. I used to be a photographer in the olden days with film and negatives and dark rooms, and digital photography is so much cleaner and easier. You do all your editing on a screen and you don't have to go to a dark room, but you might be an expert in photography and you might be able to give a class at your senior center to get people up to speed on how they could either use a camera or their iPhone to take pictures. You can learn a new language, dance, or musical instrument. So many of these are touching on more than one aspect, because if you're going somewhere to learn to dance, you're being socially engaged, you're being physically stimulated, so you're really doing a great job of maintaining great brain health. Trying complex arts and crafts, yep, that's really important. Play challenging card or board games. Picking up something new. The key to this is doing something new to engage your brain in new activities, keep it challenged. Clinical trials have not proven that playing brain games will prevent a degenerative process or the onset of Alzheimer's. But there is evidence that learning new things and changing what you do will improve your cognitive function and keep your brain as sharp as it possibly can be. So engaging your brain is so important. Number 3, the third pillar, managing stress. I think we all know what a killer stress can be. Not managing your stress can impact not just your mind, but your brain. Exercise is really important. Exercise relieves the mental and physical effects of stress. Some days I don't feel like exercising. I try to exercise, and I got to keep myself in shape. I'm 72. I got to keep myself in shape to go hike. And I know how quickly you lose muscle mass. When I first retired, I had an accident and I tore a couple of tendons in my shoulder, and I was in a sling for 5 weeks. And then any of you on the webinar know how difficult it is to come back, how long the recovery is to come back from any soft tissue repair like tendon repair. So I learned how quickly I lost muscle mass. And so I really exercise regularly. I may not feel like I want to do it in the beginning, but I always feel good at the end. And if you're in a part of the country where there's bad weather, you can always walk. Walking is a great form of exercise, walk in the mall. Smiling and laughing. I live with a laugher. When you laugh and you smile, it releases hormones and brain chemicals, which help balance some of the effects of stress. And what happens when you smile and you walk into a room? Everyone smiles back at you. And like I said, I live with someone who's a big laugher and a smiler, and it really helps me keep my head screwed on right, to remember to take life with a couple of grains of salt or sand, whatever you prefer. If you're on a low salt diet, use sand, and not sweat the small stuff. It's sometimes easy, but as we get older and we find that stress is still there, the golden age can have some golden stress associated with it. We still have to keep ourselves sharp on how to relieve this stress. Music and reading is really good. When you're absorbed in a book, you probably can't think about any of the issues that are causing stress. If you're listening to good music, you can get so involved in it that it can help you shift away from your day into a zone and can help you relieve stress. And the last bullet on this page, seek out green spaces. I just love spending time outdoors. I grew up on a farm. I'm an outdoor type of guy, not a city guy. And I know when I'm out in nature, and I don't have to be on a hike on a 4,000 footer in New Hampshire. I could just be on a regular walk around the town that I live in, or the trails, just being out there where it's quiet and I don't take my cell phone, or if I have it with me, it's on vibrate only. That just so calms me down and lowers my heart rate that it's just all benefit to me. So, Kara, you know what's coming up now. Let's ask our audience, how do you manage stress? What do you do to reduce stress, no matter what stage of life you're in, whether you're young and you're just getting married or starting your career? Let's see what we got. Meditation, retired, no more business ownership. Yeah, business ownership can be a big stressor. Walk, meditate, listen to music, quiet time. Quiet time is so important, isn't it? Sometimes I just like sitting back in a room and shutting the lights down low and just closing my eyes, not sleeping, but just closing my eyes.
Somebody talked about journaling as well. That's highly touted. Somebody said they journal 3 pages a day.
Wow.
Mm,
Yeah,
prayer.
I had a
Yep.
friend who took up writing poetry when she retired, and she's gotten published. It's really become really important to her. A million, ride a bicycle 30 minutes each day. Boy, that manages your stress and gives you exercise, dancing. Yeah, so many great ideas. So many great ideas. Let's see if we have covered all of them. Confide in friends. Now that's really important. You know, call them if they don't live close by. I have a couple of friends that I consider true friends. I know we have a lot of acquaintances, but everyone probably has a couple of true friends that you can call on a Sunday. And you know, they're not going to solve your problems for you, but they're going to allow you to vent and they're going to listen. And that's really important. And you'll get that nice verbal hug or some good advice from them. Being silent and still, stretch breaks. Yeah, stretch breaks is so important. So many people, when they retire, they spend too much time online, right? They're watching YouTube videos, reading the news online, going to blogs and reading about the latest world activity or world event. But when you do that, you need to take stretch breaks, get yourself away from that screen. I have my smartwatch, my Fitbit, no advertisement for them intended, tells me at 50 minutes after the hour whether I've gotten at least 250 steps in. So I get reminded at 50 minutes past the hour to get up and do something. Don't sit on your butt watching a movie. And taking deep breaths, you know, practicing deep breathing is really good. You can always use that extra dose of oxygen, and it's just so calming. And now, as long as technology is going to cooperate, we have like a minute and a half film, which I think you'll really enjoy. It's kind of fun.
My stepdaughters, but I find that they're laughing at me and not with me.
Laughter. It's universal. The dictionary calls it an expression of emotion with an explosive vocal sound. But it's so much more than that. Humor and our ability to laugh add depth to our daily life. It engages various brain networks, including those that process information and search for patterns. What can you do to bring more laughter to your life? Talk with friends about fun memories. Learn to laugh at yourself. See how laughter may also be good for your brain health.
Yeah, that's always such a fun film. And at my point in life, we have our first grandchild. And I love playing with Maddie. She's 2 years and 3 months, two and a quarter. Every part of the world is fascinating to her. You go out for a walk around the block and it could take you like 5 hours because she stops and looks at the ant and looks at the flowers and looks at the birds when an airplane goes over. The joy she gets out of the simple things at life just help me reorient myself and remind me on what's important in life. And I had a quote. I did this presentation in person the other day, and we were talking about worry and how hard it is to stop worrying. You can listen to music and read books. And they had a great quote. They said, "Worry is like a rocking horse. It moves, but never gets you anywhere." So, what's the point of worry? So, don't worry, laugh and smile and get rid of that stress. Ongoing exercise. Now, this means you don't need to be a marathon runner. You don't need to climb 4,000 footers in New Hampshire or wherever you live, but you need to do something. You need to move. You know what happens if you get into a sedentary routine because you probably have friends who've gotten into a sedentary routine. And what happens? They gain a little weight. That makes them feel less wanting to exercise. Their muscles start to atrophy. This makes it even harder to exercise, so you do less. And that spiral continues until you know what happens. You just get yourself so out of shape that it's a real slog to get yourself back into shape. Think of your body like a car. You can't just get your car and drive it and then park it and then expect it to stay in good shape. For any of you who are classic car buffs, you go to a car museum, classic car museum, and you talk to the docents who are there, and they tell you about how often the cars are taken out and run because it's the only way that you can keep a car in good shape, and it's the only way you can do the same for your body. So some of the guidelines are get at least 150 minutes of exercise each week. Move about 30 minutes each day. Walking's a great start. Think of ways you can build exercise into what you do every day. Take the stairs instead of the elevator if you're at work. When I park my car, when I go shopping, I park it way over there. Two reasons. One, I hate door dings, so I want to park it where there's no people, but I need those extra steps so I can get to my 10,000 a day step goal, even if I'm not out, doing a power walk or hiking. And so I want to get those steps in. So there's a lot of ways you can think of working exercise into your daily routine. Now, physical activity is so helpful. It repairs and protects your brain because it releases chemicals that flush out toxins. It increases your circulation. You always feel warmer after physical activity. It reduces anxiety. Your body releases those great chemicals, and I always feel better after a workout, even if I didn't want to particularly start the workout. And when you exercise regularly, it reduces the risk of all these bad things happening to you. The risk of having diabetes goes down, or heart disease, or depression, or stroke. So find activities. It's so important to find activities that you really enjoy. If you hate doing it, you're not going to do it. So find things that you really enjoy. And remember, it's always important to talk to a healthcare provider before you start a new exercise program. You want to be able to start appropriately and work into it. I mean, I remember when I got married and I was 28 years old. My wife's a great cook, and I started putting on a little bit of weight here and there. And then I would turn 30, and I said, I got to do something about this little role I'm starting to develop. So I started running. I think my first run was 100 feet, and then maybe 100 yards, and then a quarter mile. And before you knew it, in 3-4 months, I was up to running 5-6 miles. But you got to start small and definitely stretch. And when you think of a total exercise program, there's really 4 components of a total exercise program. You need to do something aerobic. You need to do something that pushes your heart rate up. So if you're going to walk, that's fine, but maybe increase the pace occasionally to start kicking up your heart rate. You also need to keep your flexibility, and by stretching. That also improves your balance. That's number 2. And the third part of a good total exercise program is something that increases your strength. Walking doesn't increase your strength. You need to do some weights. You can start with 1-pound weights or 2-pound weights, or do some calisthenics, but you got to increase the muscle mass. And then there's that time and duration, building the endurance. And this can be walking, but walking for longer distances. So think about those 4 components as you start to design an exercise program. And remember to always consult with your healthcare provider before you start your program. So Kara, pillar number 4. I bet we're going to get some great, I think they've already been streaming across the chat screen.
They have been, yeah.
What people do to get themselves moving and get some exercise each day.
And I was reminding people that the virtual community center that we started during the pandemic has a ton of exercise and movement classes that you can check out at any given day. Some state office somewhere in the country is offering it for you virtually. Housework. Yep.
Housework. Well, I could tell the story of aerobic bathroom cleaning. When I'm in there scrubbing the shower, I definitely get an aerobic workout. Yep, exactly. Housework, yard work's the killer. I mean, it's good to do, but it's always there. I'm at the point in my life where I'm getting ready to downsize the house. The kids are all flown the coop and married and starting to have their own kids. So yard work, though, that's great. Gardening, outdoor activities. There's just a million ways. If you can't think of something you like to do, talk to your friends. I bet they'll get you involved in something. And pickleball is a lot of fun, and it's not just for old people. There's a lot of young people playing pickleball. The average age of pickleball players is now well into the 30s. So when people tell you it's only people over 65, that is not true. So let's see, did we miss anything? Walking, dancing, running, biking, strength training. I think we hit everything on this slide. Yeah, it's so important to keep yourself going. Silver sneakers. Yep, exactly. I've talked to several people around that. If you're on a Medicare Advantage program, you have that option. So let's get to pillar number 5, restorative sleep. I mean, we all know how much better we feel after we have a good night's sleep, right? Sleep restores the brain, providing time to flush out all the bad stuff in our brain. It's really important for good brain health to sleep well. Now, some of the things you can do, everyone probably understands these. You do need to limit caffeine beginning after lunch, especially if you're highly sensitive to caffeine. My wife is, if she loves her Diet Cokes or fountain sodas, as she calls them. But if she has a fountain soda at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, even, it impacts her sleep because there's caffeine in soda. So make sure when you're drinking beverages, you look to see if there's caffeine in them. So many beverages that you think don't have caffeine in them that do. Sodas, tea has caffeine, not as much as coffee, but it does have caffeine. If you haven't stopped smoking, avoid any smoking and nicotine substances 4 to 6 hours before bedtime, because nicotine stimulates your heart, gets it going up, which is not what you want to do when you want to go to bed. And alcohol. I notice a big difference if I'm at home and having a dinner on the weekend and I might have a glass of wine with dinner. I can sleep fine if I have a 7 o'clock glass of wine and go to bed at 11 o'clock or midnight. But if I go out to a party and I'm having, maybe 2 drinks, and my wife is a designated driver, and when I get home, I just don't sleep as well. The alcohol really disturbs your sleep cycle, affects your sleep, your REM sleep, your deep sleep. And as we said, I know so Fitbit wearers, it was streaming by the screen. My Fitbit also allows me in the morning to look at my sleep to find out how long I was asleep and whether I had restorative sleep and my heart rate. And I know if I have more than 1 drink, my heart rate doesn't come down to my resting and a nighttime heart rate. So it's really important to make sure that you are eliminating or minimizing alcohol before bedtime. So, Kara, pillar number 5.
Yeah.
What do people do to sleep better?
Herbal tea, that's my favorite. Yes. A cool room. Yep. Not too hot. Not very good. How about screen
And,
time? Limiting.
the cool room is a big issue for couples, isn't it? Whether you're married or your partner, one person likes it hot, one person likes it cold. Oh,
True.
Carrie's laughing. We solved that in my house when in the winter I keep our thermostat in the bedrooms at 60. If I could turn it to 50, I would. But I got my wife just a small electric blanket that only covers her side of the bed.
Smart.
So she can turn it up and roast herself before she goes to bed, get the bed up to 100. I don't really care. So we solved that. Avoid caffeine. Yeah, ice cream has caffeine in it. Absolutely. Have a routine. We're going to talk about that on the next slide. Get rid of your screen time. Yeah, absolutely. 50, yeah, 50 is too warm for me. Yeah, it's the epic battle of the thermostat between married couples or the keeping the window open. I like to sleep with the window open. My wife doesn't, unless she needs it, and I sleep on the window side, and then she tells me I'm blocking all the cool breezes. No phone, no reading. Yep. So let's see what AARP recommends to sleep better. Well, you need 78 hours in a 24-hour period, and that's key. You can be a napper and get some of your sleep. My wife is a power napper. She can go to sleep and take a nap in 5 seconds, literally. I'm a terrible napper. I can be as tired. I can come back from hiking 48, one of the 48 4,000 footers, and it could be a 14, 17-mile hike, and I can't take a nap. I just can't. It's just not in my body rhythms. Practicing good sleep techniques is really important, maintaining that regular sleep-wake cycle. And I know if you're retired, it's easier. I know when I worked, um, I I went to bed early during the week because I was typically traveling a lot on business, and I'd like to stay up later on the weekend, but that really screwed myself because it just changed my body rhythms. Exposing yourself to outdoor light during day is really, really important. It helps besides developing vitamin D, that outdoor light helps reset your internal clock. Without getting real outdoor light, you're not going to reset that clock. Now, there are some issues with sleep as we age. Sleep can be more easily interrupted. You know, people who are 50 shouldn't really expect to sleep the same way they did at age 25. You may have to put more effort into it. Deep sleep decreases. You may wind up going to bed early and then getting up early. And my wife and I are kind of on a reverse cycle. She gets her second win at 10 and could stay up to midnight or 1 and then sleeping in the morning. And by 9:30, I'm shot, but I could get up at 5 every morning. So we've worked that out, but just be conscious of that. Your body internal clock does shift. And don't worry about missing one night of sleep or having a bad night of sleep. You can recover. Don't let it linger. Let's see, what else do we have that we haven't mentioned? Caffeine, we already mentioned that. Read the labels. We're going to get into the sixth pillar, eating right, and we're going to talk about the importance of reading labels, but read the labels. You'd be surprised. Pets. Everyone loves their pets, but maybe you should keep them out of the bedroom. You don't want them jumping on you or waking you up at 5 in the morning when it gets light, or if you like sleeping with the windows open when they hear somebody going by walking the dog, they get up and barking. So you might want to keep that pet out of the bedroom, or if at least you can teach the pet to sleep on a pet bed on the floor rather than in your bed. We already talked about fluids and food. And it's so important, as so many of you commented on in the chat, to keep smartphones, TVs, and electronics out of the bedroom. Why? Because the blue light really impacts your ability to sleep. You need to get rid of them. I mean, even having the TV on, sometimes my wife will be watching something on our TV and I'll be trying to go to bed, and I can see the brightness change. It just flashes brightness and the sound goes up and down, and that's not conducive to lowering your body and calming yourself down. Make sure, of course, that all your electronics are in the do not disturb mode. So you don't have beeps in the middle of the night because you're getting an update from some news source. And definitely read a book instead of staring into a screen. I think that's the best way. Although a friend of mine says, I always ask him what book he's reading currently. And he says, well, I'm 4 pages into it because it's the best way to put myself to sleep is to start to read, and then 3 paragraphs later, I'm out. So let's get to pillar number 6, eating right. Oh, excuse me, I hit the wrong button. Eating right has a big impact on your brain. We know it also has a big impact on your body. What's good for the brain is also good for the body. So let's dive into this topic. So we know we need to eat less meats and sweets. Now, I like my red meats, I like my sweets, but I've learned to ration them. I will force myself to eat more chicken. I like chicken. I like dark meat chicken. I like dark meat turkey. But I've given up on processed foods, meaning I love liverwurst and tomato sandwiches, but not anymore. But I now eat turkey and chicken in my sandwiches. Sweets. In our house, we have a funny situation. My wife's red flag food, one of them is cookies, especially double stuffed Oreos, and 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 the cookies that are the cookie with the marshmallow. They're called pinwheels. They're different brands. She loves those, so I hide them, and they're in a secret place where only I know. And when she wants them, I'll ask her if she's exercised today. No, I won't do that because she would kick me. But then I give her 2 cookies. So sweets are great, but don't keep them handy. And don't keep them in the cupboard where they're open, because every time you go by, you're going to be grabbing a sugar wafer. And then you know what happens. You've eaten the sleeve and you don't even remember. You need to consume more fish and seafood of all types. Nuts are really good. I've learned to get rid of those high salt snacks that are not just high in salt, but high in fats, and eat almonds and walnuts are really good. Grains. When I shop for bread, I read the label. You'll be amazed at how much added sugar there is in in bread, and how much how little fiber there is in some of the breads that you've eaten for years. So definitely read the labels. Beans can be really good because they're high in protein and it can be much less expensive than meat. And leafy green vegetables are wonderful, but just be careful how you cook them. I like to steam vegetables, leafy green vegetables. I don't roast, but I really have gone to roast most of my vegetables rather than boil them. And I think what my mother did, my mother, rest her soul, she cooked the life out of anything, meat or vegetables. So we didn't get very nutritious leafy green vegetables when I was growing up. And there are healthy fats. Olive oil is really good. Other vegetable fats are really good. Unsaturated fats do lower your disease risk because when you look at the label, if you're eating almonds, you'll notice they have fats in them, but they have some of the good fats. Trans fats are bad. Saturated fats are bad. And even in small amounts, they can really cause problems. So before we get to more detail on what AARP recommends, you know the question, Kara, you know the drill. What do people eat to keep themselves part of a brain healthy diet?
Nuts, lots of nuts.
Nuts. The wonder was that anyone eats it. Wonder bread. Yeah, Wonder bread is not exactly. We had that when I was a kid, along with the leafy green vegetables that had all the nutrients boiled out of them. Oatmeal is great. My wife loves starting the day with oatmeal. You know, people always ask about, are there diets that are really good for you? I'm on a modified Mediterranean diet right now. There's been no real diet that's been proven to be the only diet that you should be on. Don't start some of these fad crazy diets. And of course, if you're going to start a diet, always consult with your healthcare provider, your doctor, before you do that. Yeah, avocados. You know, avocados I thought were just heavy in fat, but they have some of the good stuff in them too. So avocados, a half of avocado as an appetizer is always really good. Oh, you know, Kara, I haven't had dinner yet on the East Coast, so all this discussion of food is making me hungry. So let's see, what haven't we covered? You know, kale, spinach, and broccoli, you know, absolutely. Berries. I love berries, and fresh and frozen berries are good for you too. And I only buy berries when I can buy them for like either the 2-for-1 sale or buy one and get the second one half off because they're fairly expensive. Get rid of salt and sugar and mayonnaise. I have a friend who puts mayonnaise on their steamed broccoli. Now that's an oxymoron to me, so don't do that. I like putting garlic powder on my vegetables. Give it that spice. And of course, lemon vinegar and herbs and spices are much more healthy for you. Salt and sugar are kryptonite. So well said. Salmon and sardines. Now, I'm not a big sardine guy, but I like salmon, and I found a bunch of recipes. I'm a Weight Watchers guy. I'm a Weight Watchers for Life person, and I found some really good one dish salmon recipes where you can bake them, you roast your vegetables, put the salmon in the middle, got one thing to clean up, and it's delicious. And then, of course, walnuts and almonds. We already talked about that. So hopefully you've gotten some really good tips on what you can do. So what are the things that are risks or threats to brain health? Now, these are probably all pretty obvious to you, but let's just run through them. Smoking, you know, thank goodness fewer people are smoking and more young people are not smoking, and people that are older smoking or vaping, which is great. The smoking increases the risk of heart attack and stroke, including the risk of increased lung cancer. Depression. Depression doubles the risk for cognitive decline. Depression is not a normal part of aging, and cognitive decline is not a normal part of aging. Why does depression double the risk? Well, because when you're depressed, you're not socially connected, your brain is engaged, you're not creating all those new synapses, and it's really bad for you. Certain medications, make sure if you're taking even over-the-counter medications that you're going over that list with your doctor. You know, thankfully, with all the new portals they have, they're always asking you to update your medication list. And I make sure I put in there also the over-the-counter medications, not just my prescriptions. We know that diabetes is a killer. It damages blood vessels throughout your body, including your brain, increases the risk of heart attack and memory problems and Alzheimer's. And nowadays, diabetes can be typically well maintained. So make sure you're getting your annual wellness checks. Hearing and vision loss. They're also linked. to trouble with thinking and memory. Because again, if you can't hear or if your vision is impaired, you're probably not stimulating your brain. And of course, a lot of these impact your heart, and heart disease is one of the real big risks or threats to brain health as we age. So can you have a lifestyle that improves your memory? We do have some tips for improving your memory. Set up a routine, do the same thing that you do every day, put the things in the same place. We have a key basket by the door from the garage to put our keys in so we don't have to worry about losing them. Pay attention to what you do. We probably all have had that situation where you are downstairs or in one part of your house and oh, I got to go up and get my book. And then you're going up the stairs and you're thinking about the laundry and what you're going to make for dinner, and you get there and you forget because you haven't been paying attention. You don't have a memory issue. So pay attention to what you're doing. Avoid multitasking. Can you really multitask? You can serially process very quickly. You can switch, but you can really only do one thing at a time. Don't think you can't multitask because you really can't. Take breaks during the day, especially if you're retired or if you have a work exercise area. It's nice to fit in a work break exercise or go for a walk. And as I age and as my life has actually gotten more busy in retirement, I use all the electronic devices I can, calendars and reminders and notes on your smartphone. Use all of those because they're really helpful. So the point of this presentation is to get you thinking about how you can develop a lifestyle that supports brain health, which of course then supports your physical health. So let's go over and give a peek into an example of what a successful brain healthy day looks like.
Everyone's days are different, but let's have a look at what a day in the life of a healthy brain might look like. 7 a.m. You wake naturally, feeling well rested because your brain spent the night organizing experiences, strengthening memories, and power washing all the toxins that built up throughout the day yesterday. 7:30 a.m. Time to tee up a productive day with a healthy breakfast. Think oatmeal, berries, and maybe some flax seeds sprinkled on top. Your body gets started converting this to glucose, which will act as fuel for your brain. Breakfast fuels you for the creative projects, hobbies, or work that await you. 12 p.m. You are ready to nourish your brain and body. A lunch with a lean protein, whole grains, nuts, fruits, and vegetables helps to keep your brain and body healthy. 1 p.m. Fresh air is calling. A brisk walk helps digestion and clears the mind for the rest of the day. Regular exercise supports your thinking and memory. 5 p.m. Meet up with friends for dinner. Keeping up social connections is great for maintaining a healthy brain. Laughter can even trigger the release of endorphins. 7 p.m. Winding down with meditation or yoga can help with transitioning to bedtime and quiets the day's worth of thoughts that often race through your mind. 10 p.m. It's time to go all in on your bedtime routine. Preparing the same way around the same time every night may support a solid evening of sleep. It's a long day for your brain. Giving it everything it needs, including exercise, stimulation, nutrition, and of course, plenty of rest, can keep it functioning healthily as you age.
So when I taught sales classes, I used to tell my salesmen, my saleswomen, my salespeople that knowledge is not power. Knowledge is poop. What is power is taking that knowledge and doing something with it. So hopefully in the 60 minutes we spent together, you picked up a couple of things that you might include into your daily routine to keep yourself brain healthy, to improve your brain health and keep yourself physically healthy. Kara's going to send these slides out. There's going to be a couple of handouts available. So pick a couple of small things. Don't try to change everything, just like, New Year's resolutions. Everyone gets to the gym the next day, and then by the end of the week, no one's going. Pick a couple of small things, maybe do one tip for each of the pillars and see what you can do to improve your brain health by sticking with it. You got to keep yourself accountable. Who can hold you accountable? Only you. Or your friends. So if you're going to go walking as part of your exercise, get a friends group to go together. Get support, because when you have friends, it goes faster and they can hold you accountable to keep yourself on track. So in that presentation, in the slides that are going to go out, there's some good resources, the Brain Health website, the Global Council on Brain Health, stayingsharp.aarp.org. Good things that you can access. And with that, we've reached the end, and I hope you enjoyed this presentation. We reviewed the 6 pillars. I hope you got a couple of good tips out of this, things that you can do to improve your brain health, improve your body health, and have the most fulfilling and rich life possible. And thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much, Sam. Great job. Cheers.